Good afternoon, everybody. I want to thank you for joining us today for the Master's of Science in Communication Disorders webinar. We understand that we're not able to host you on campus to take a tour of the facilities, and that may be disappointing, but we did want to make sure that we took the opportunity to provide you with the information as the deadline is coming due February 1st, 2021. So again, thank you so much for joining us. I am joined here with Dr. Victorino, who is the program director for the CODS program here at William Patterson. My name is Christina Aiello. I'm the Assistant Director for Graduate Admissions, and I handle the College of Science and Health, which is inclusive of this program here. So any of the admissions questions, things like that should come to me and or the graduate inbox. I know that this particular program is a little tricky with the CIDCAS application. So as it's cited on our website, all the information does in fact need to go to CIDCAS, and you should probably start with them as far as application questions to make sure that they've received everything, because we won't receive the information until after the application is officially completed. So that's just a little bit of background. I know Dr. Victorino is going to go through some of that real quick. I just want to let you know, if you do have any questions, you are welcome to put them in the chat box while we're speaking. If you could please keep yourself on mute so that it doesn't distract anybody else from getting the information that we're providing today. And then at the end, if there are still those of you that have some questions that you don't feel were addressed or you need more clarification, please just go ahead and raise your hand and we will get to you as quickly as possible in whatever order it is we can get to them. So without further ado, I want to introduce Dr. Victorino. It's all yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. Hi, everyone. I'm Kristen Victorino. I am the Graduate Program Director for Communication Disorders and Sciences at William Patterson. I'm an Associate Professor in the department. I have been with William Patterson in our department since 2012. I am the Graduate Program Director just for the past year. So I am happy to provide information today and then, as Christina said, answer any questions that you may have. So I'm going to go over some of our basic program information, our requirements for admission, basically what I think a lot of the FAQs probably are, but then again, we'll definitely have time towards the end of this hour if you have additional questions that we can go over. Okay, so I'm going to proceed. Here we go. So our Master of Science program at William Patterson is a 54 credit degree program. And those 54 credits are spread over approximately 2 years. And I'll get into what a typical curriculum plan looks like in a couple of minutes. Our program is accredited by the Council of Academic Accreditation, the CAA, of the American Speech, Language, and Hearing Association, which is ASHA. So those are some terms that you may have heard being thrown around, CAA and ASHA. So CAA accredited programs meet all of the requirements at the national level to become a speech language pathologist. Our program in particular meets the requirements not only for that eventual ASHA certification, but also New Jersey state licensure and the New Jersey Department of Education Speech Language Specialist certification, which is what is required if you're going to work in the public school system in New Jersey. So we don't have separate tracks for school certification or not. Everyone who graduates our program will be prepared for those 3 levels of certification and licensure. As for our curriculum, we offer a well-rounded curriculum, meaning that we cover all of the major disorder areas of speech and language and communication disorders. We don't specialize in, we don't specialize in like medical versus school. All of our students get the preparation that they would need to work in a number of different settings. And the curriculum is designed to meet the knowledge and skill acquisition standards that are set and that are consistently applied by the CAA across programs in the country. I'm going to click on this link and just show you where you can find further information about our curriculum on our website. Everyone seeing this, I hope. So this is our curriculum that shows all of the coursework that's required. As you can see, it's typically completed in 5 to 6 terms, meaning 2 full years plus a summer. It can go up to 6 terms if you did not have all of the prerequisite coursework, which I'll talk about in a minute. And the sequence of courses varies a little bit. I'm going to talk about our curriculum planning, but everyone is required to take 37 credits of core coursework. And then we have practicum requirements, which are the in-house as well as externship clinical requirements. There are 13 credits there, and then 3 to 4 credits of electives. On this particular curriculum plan, it shows 4 electives, and they're 1 credit each. Going forward, it looks like we'll be working with 3 electives because there's 1 small curriculum change that's happening for next year. But this is on our website, and if you click on any of the courses, you'll be linked to the graduate handbook that will have a course description if you're interested in looking at, you know, what any of those courses cover. All right, so our basic curriculum plan may look a little bit different depending on whether or not you've completed all of your prerequisites. Students who come in, and we do accept students either with or without a background in communication disorders. So some applicants have completed a bachelor's degree in a communication disorders program, and typically will have all of those prereqs plus some. Other students come from completely different backgrounds, might be coming back for a second career, and that's perfectly okay for our program. But we do have certain prerequisites that have to be completed before you can move into the graduate portion of the coursework. So assuming a student had all of the prereqs completed, a basic curriculum plan includes 2 years, so 2 years of fall, spring, and the summer in between. We have some electives are often offered in the winter semester, which is a short kind of intersession, sometimes in the summer semesters. And so there, you know, can be some additional coursework during that time, but because they're elective, you can schedule those electives whenever is convenient for you. Students who come in without the background, meaning none of the prerequisites, maybe are coming from another career entirely or have had an undergraduate degree in an unrelated area, can expect up to 2 additional semesters in the program. We have a core of 5 prerequisites in communication disorders, and then there are some additional ASHA required prereqs that I'm going to go over on the next slide. So it can take anywhere from 1 to 2 additional semesters on campus, and you are able to take those classes at William-Patterson if you're accepted into the program. Some students come in with most of the prerequisites, but they're missing a course in clinical methods and observations. That seems to be the one, if any, that students may be missing because not all programs offer that course at the undergraduate level. If that happens, what we typically do is have our incoming graduate students will take clinical methods and observations in their first semester in the fall. And then start clinic in the spring, which just essentially pushes out their their clinical curriculum plan by 1 semester. And that results in an August versus a May graduation on the outer end of the program. So it's not something that really pushes things out too significantly. And in some cases, students may actually elect to do, for example, a healthcare externship out in that last summer. Which also results in an August graduation. So you certainly wouldn't be, you know, on your own graduating in August. And the curriculum plan, the other thing to note is that we this year started using more of a cohort model where we split the incoming class into A and B groups, where everyone is taking the same series of courses, the same electives the same core required courses. But we're doing it sort of flip-flop, where half of the class may take a certain 3 classes in the fall and the other half takes those 3 classes in the spring. What that allows for is for our clinical placements to be balanced a little bit better, where we have some students going out in the second year on school externships and then the other kind of half of the group will be doing their healthcare externship, and then that can flip-flop. So that's makes things easier on our externship coordinator, who has to place a large number of students any given semester, to say, you know, we don't need like all 30 students going out into hospitals at once. We can balance it out over the course of the year. And the other nice thing that we're finding is that it allows for a slightly smaller class size, better interaction and engagement with faculty, and some nice, you know, kind of community within those cohorts. All right, so I've alluded to clinic. Clinical opportunities in our program are really varied. We are able to offer the 25 hours of supervised observation if needed via our clinical methods and observations course, which, as I mentioned, some students do take their first semester as graduate students. If you're coming in with those 25 hours, that's not necessary. You don't have to do any additional hours once you get here. In all, and this is an ASHA requirement or CAA requirement, students must have 375 hours of direct treatment or assessment with clients. So 375 hours of clinical practicum. So that's beyond the 25 observations. So altogether you end up with the 400 required hours. We offer a variety of clinical placements. So we have an on-campus clinic, which is in our beautiful building. Maybe you can see this building behind me here on my screen. That's actually our building. And I'll show you another picture in a minute, but we're in a nice building that was just built in 2016. And so we were able to really have a lot of input on how we wanted our clinic to be designed. So we have a beautiful facility that is really set up nicely for individual as well as group clinical settings. So we have our on-campus clinic, which is basically your first year clinical experience. If you come in with the observation hours, students will start in the fall with on-campus clinic, and we'll have a fall clinic, a spring clinic, and then a summer clinic. And most students at that point will have accumulated anywhere from, I think it's like 125 to 175 or so hours before you go out to your externships. So you really get a nice foundation of clinical practice before you go to any external site. And then the externships are available in a variety of school, hospital, rehabilitation centers. Each student will have one pediatric placement and one adult placement. You know, roughly, typically it's a school versus some kind of healthcare setting. And we like for students to have their hours really distributed kind of across the lifespan as well as across various disorder areas. ASHA doesn't require anymore that students document. Well, we document the way the hours are distributed, but ASHA doesn't have any specific requirements for how many hours need to be in each area. But we do like for students to have a range of experiences. And so we are conscious of that in our planning of the clinical experience. We have a clinic director as well as an externship coordinator who meet with students to plan out their whole kind of clinic plan. Here's another shot of our clinic and classroom facilities. This is University Hall. This is actually rendering from before the building was completed, but that is what it looks like now. It's a really nice building. Our faculty offices are up on the second floor. All of our classes are held in this building. I can only think of a few rare occasions when we've had classes in other buildings, and if we did, it would be like in the building next door. So pretty much this is home base for our program. Classes are held in this building. As I said, the clinic is down on the lower level. There's a separate parking lot and entrance around the back of this building for our clinic so that clients can easily access the facility without having to come through campus. And yeah, I wish that we were able to offer a tour, but maybe someday soon. I'm just going to pause for a second. I think I saw a question. I'm going to get to my chat. Someone's just asking if you already have the observation hours, would you put that into SIDCAS? I can't think off the top of my head if there's a spot for that, but you would check off that you have the clinical observations prereq completed. And then the hours don't really have to be documented until such time that a student is accepted and matriculated and has, you know, and we're starting to plan for clinic. All right, so let's talk about admissions. And all of this information is on our website. I'm sure that at this point, most of you are aware of our admissions requirements, but I'm just going to go over them quickly. So we are, as you know, all of our applications are submitted through SIDCAS. The application cycle is open and will close on February 1st of 2021. So some of the requirements include an undergraduate, cumulative undergraduate GPA of at least 3.0. Typically, we're looking for GRE scores at or above the 50th percentile, but as you know, or hopefully know by now, we have waived the GRE requirement for this year due to the pandemic and, you know, difficulties accessing testing sites. We require three letters of recommendation that can be uploaded directly through SIDCAS. There's a prompt for a personal statement, and then there is a supplemental WPU application fee. I want to clarify that it is not a supplemental application. There's nothing else you have to do. You don't have to apply separately. Once your application is complete in SIDCAS, the information gets processed and sent to our graduate admissions office. At that point, you will receive an email from graduate admissions that will have instructions for submitting that application fee. Is that correct, Christina? Anything I need to add to that?
No, that is correct. So what happens is you complete your application via SIDCAS. We get weekly reports. So if you complete on a Tuesday and nothing happens until Friday, please don't panic. So we get weekly reports from SIDCAS letting us know what applications are officially complete. Once your application is then pushed through our system into the William Patterson system, that will automatically generate an email for you letting you know that the application fee is due to the university. And you can go ahead then with your student ID number, log in and make payment for that fee. And real quick, Dr. Victorino, there was another question in regards to the recommendation letters. How many of them needed to be from an academic professor?
So we don't really have a requirement for that. I will say, as a person who has reviewed applications over the years, the preference would be for them to come from an academic source. You know, what we are looking for is evidence of what kind of student you are, what kind of, you know, initiative you've shown in a classroom environment. We want to know about your potential to succeed in a graduate school environment. And so for the most part, those are going to be academic references. That said, if it's not an academic reference, it's not like we're not going to accept the letter. And sometimes you may have extenuating circumstances, like maybe you're out of school for a few years or more than that, in which case job supervisors can be appropriate. I know I do see a number of letters of recommendation that come, for example, from SLPs who a student has shadowed or has worked with in some capacity. So, you know, that can be okay, but I do think that shouldn't be all three of your letters. So hopefully that cleared things up a little bit.
I just wanted to add one more thing in regards to the application. Keep in mind that February 1st, and I don't know how many times we could say this or make sure that it's that you guys are aware, February 1st is a hard deadline, meaning if your application is not complete, all of your materials submitted, and that SIDCAS has reviewed it to say that all the information is there, it will not be accepted. If you submit a letter of recommendation to SIDCAS on February 1st, but they don't get a chance to quote unquote verify it, and I use that word loosely, until the 3rd, you are not eligible to be reviewed. So when I tell you, you definitely do not want to waste any time I know with the holidays and, January being a little crazy, and especially now that everything is online and a little chaotic in general, if you have not pretty much completed the application and or are working towards getting that application complete and all your materials submitted, please do not wait until last minute. There are no exceptions when it comes to this. We are grateful that we have an incredible program, and that we have 3 times, 4 times the amount of students apply than what we have seats available for in the program. So the deadline really is a steadfast deadline. So just please keep that in the back of your mind so that you don't panic or get yourself nervous. There are no exceptions when it comes to that deadline.
Yeah, thank you. I was definitely going to reiterate that as well. I see I just have one other question about letters of recommendation, which is, oh, where did it go on my screen? Oh, there we go. Do the letters need to be from professors in communication disorders specifically? No, not necessarily. I've had students apply and have letters from like a psychology professor who they maybe helped to work on some research with, or, it really doesn't matter. It just has to be someone who knows you well, knows your academic potential. And I would just advise you to choose wisely. Choose someone who you think will write you a really strong letter. That's the most important thing. Someone who knows you well and who can really speak to your strengths. Clinical observation hours, do they have to be done through a course, or can you shadow with their license? Okay, so for the observation hours, as per ASHA, they do have to be documented and signed by an SLP who is certified, and this is kind of new, who has completed continuing ed in the area of supervision. So please do make sure that, and it's like a 2-hour requirement. It's not like they have to be supervisors anywhere. But because the clinical clock hours, the clinical observation hours are supposed to be guided. So that means that when you're doing the observation, someone is guiding your way. Someone is talking to you about the session, talking to you about what you've seen, how they're taking data, how they went about coming up with a plan, those kind of things. So that may be the person who you're observing. Sometimes the person who ends up signing off on the hours is the instructor of a course. And in that case, that is the person who has to have those ASHA documented CE hours in supervision, because they're the ones who are kind of guiding your experience. So it can be outside of course, but it has to be, it has to be as per ASHA's guidelines. The other thing to note is that we do require the clinical methods part. So if you're only coming in with the observations but haven't taken a course in clinical methods, you still will have to take a course in clinical methods. And the course that we offer combines the observation hours. If it doesn't make sense for you to have to replicate another 25 hours, what we usually recommend is that you take that course online somewhere through another institution before you start the program. And there would be opportunities to take that like even over the summer before. So at that point, you would know whether you've been accepted and want to or need to pursue that route. And we can kind of guide you through that if that becomes the case. Okay, so I just have a couple of slides left. So I think if I could just proceed through the next couple of slides, and then I will go in and see if there are any questions in the chat. That it seems like Christina's responding to a few of them. But if there's anything left to go over, we can have some more conversation. Okay, so our admissions requirements I went over. Yes, please do everything well in advance. Last year was my first time going through this application cycle as the graduate program director, and it was hard to have to tell students that unfortunately your application was not complete in time and we weren't able to review it. I don't want that to happen to anyone because everyone deserves a chance. And so keep on top of SIDCAS, make sure everything is in, make sure your official transcripts have been sent from your university, all of your university programs, anywhere you've ever taken any courses, they all need to come directly to SIDCAS, not to William Patterson, to SIDCAS, because everything goes into SIDCAS, as Christina said, gets verified, processed, so there's just sort of a time lag. And we don't see anything on our end until it's complete. So please be conscious of that. Okay, so I've been talking about prereqs. Just to review what our prereqs are. We have the core 5 areas, which, you know, the courses that you may have taken may have slightly different titles, and that's fine, but you can kind of figure out what content we're looking for by looking at these prerequisites. So we're looking for a course in phonetics. We are looking for a course in anatomy and physiology of the speech and swallowing mechanism. That's what we call it at William-Patterson. Your university might call it the speech and hearing mechanism, something like that. That's fine. Some basic anatomy and physiology course that is specific to speech, not like bio anatomy and physiology. Speech and language acquisition, that's normal language development. So you may have taken a course that's called something like normal language development, typical speech and language development, speech acquisition, language acquisition. Anything like that should meet that requirement. The clinical observation and methods course, which I've talked about a fair amount at this point. So that's the 25 hours plus a course that covers things like the basics of clinical practice. There might be content around like clinical ethics, lesson planning, goal setting, actually conducting a treatment session, collecting your data, writing progress reports, those kinds of things. And then some introduction to audiology. Current William-Patterson students, I don't know if there are many of you on this call, but if you are, our course, Science and Measurement of Hearing, would count towards this requirement. That is a combined course that has hearing science and basically an introduction to audiology. So that's fine for William-Patterson students, or if anyone else has taken a course that kind of combines hearing science and basic audiology, that will most likely apply as well. Any questions about prerequisites and whether they apply, you can always email me. Because we accept students either with or without the background, it doesn't really make a difference in our admissions decision, but it might make a difference as to what your curriculum plan will look like. So keep that in mind. Then beyond that, it is important to note that because we're an accredited program, we also have to follow ASHA's guidelines, and ASHA requires that students come in with prerequisite basic science coursework. That includes at least one course in biological sciences. In many cases, that's like a basic A&P course. It could be Bio 101. If you go to ASHA's website, which is linked on our website, you can see what some of the acceptable content areas would be for the science courses. So biological science, a second course in some physical science, so either physics or chemistry. One course in statistics, which sometimes is a course through your math department. Sometimes it's a course through like psychology. I've had students who were like sociology majors and they had courses in statistics, but they were called like research methods and statistics for the social sciences, something like that. As long as there's basic statistics coursework or content, that works. And then finally, one course in behavioral and or social sciences. So that can include psychology, sociology, anthropology, etc. So if you have come from a communication disorders program, it's 99% likely that you've taken all of these ASHA prereqs. It's when students come in with a totally different background or for a second career and they were like business majors. You know, sometimes they don't have all these courses. All right. Just quickly want to address graduate assistantships because we do often get questions about this. We do offer graduate assistant positions. Interest in the GA position has to be indicated on your CIDCAS application. There's a supplementary question for that. It says like, do you want to be considered for a GA position? And if so, then you must include an additional interest statement that is specific to the GA position. GA positions are very competitive and are awarded to our strongest applicants based on merit. So we will look really closely at transcripts, grades, letters of recommendation, you know, all of that stuff we really look at again beyond just our admissions decision. GAs are sometimes placed in our department. We have typically 4 GAs in our department each year, but a lot of times it's like maybe 1 or 2 new ones each incoming class because we kind of rotate. or GAs can be placed in administrative departments throughout campus. GA positions require 20 hours per week of work, which because of that, often then our healthcare externship ends up getting postponed to that second summer that I mentioned earlier, which will result in August graduation. It's not really a big deal, but it's something that you should be aware of, that if you were to take a GA position, it is likely that you would have an August graduation date after you're done with all of your requirements, because there's just not enough hours in the week if you have to work 20 hours per week on campus, and healthcare externships can be anywhere from 30 to 40 hours per week at a clinical site. You can click on that link or go through the graduate office. If you just Google, or if you put in the search bar in the William Patterson website, graduate assistantships, you'll see a whole lot more information there. Other places to find information, our website has a lot of information about all of this stuff that I've gone over: requirements, curriculum, course descriptions, etc. Here's my information. The phone number, you'll just get a message that says, due to the pandemic, I'm not really on campus, so please email me. So email is the best way to reach me right now. And then we have the graduate admissions office information below. Okay, I know my chat was lighting up, so let me open that up. Let's see.
So I've tried to answer a few of them.
Okay.
I do want to go back to one question. Hold on. Karen had asked if you need the basic science prerequisite before applying.
You don't need it before applying, but you will need those courses eventually. The only course that I would say is really critical to have before even starting the program would be statistics, because we do start out the first year with a research methods and statistics course. So you need to have the basic statistics background before that. You could always build in the basic science prerequisites into your first year of courses. You could take them online. They don't have to be at William Patterson. They could be at like a community college. It does have to be through, you know, a college environment. They can't just be like continuing education courses. They have to be legit 3-credit courses, at least 3-credit courses, but you don't need it before applying necessarily.
And there's another question. If somebody is from New York, are any of the externships in New York, and is the New Jersey certification licensure transferable?
Okay. So there may be externship sites available in New York. What you would have to do is meet with our externship coordinator early on and state that your preference would be to have the site be closer to your home. If we don't have existing contracts with sites in your area, then you would have to work with the clinical externship coordinator to locate sites, reach out to them. It's just kind of a long process to develop these contracts. Like there are actual legal contracts that have to be developed between the university and the institution where you would be doing your hours. And so it's certainly possible, but it's a process that you would want to start early on.
Right, and clinicals, they're all on campus, or they're off-site clinics as well?
Both. So your first year, you would be on campus. This year has been interesting. We're doing a lot of teletherapy, but those are considered our, on-campus experiences. And it's smaller, it's more controlled. You have one-to-one supervision. I guess I shouldn't say one-to-one. We have many clinical supervisors who work with our students, clinical educators, I should say, who work with our students. Sometimes the ratio is like 3-to-1. They might be observing 3 students or clients at the same time, but it's a very low ratio, and you have a lot of interaction with our clinical educators on campus. So it's a nice way to kind of move into the clinical, into your clinical training. So as I said, there's 1, 2, 3 on-campus rotations, and then you would move on to externship sites, which are the schools and the healthcare settings.
And I see there's a question here about GAs taking classes during the second semester. As a GA, you're a contracted employee of the university, meaning you would need to work 20 hours a week on campus in order to qualify for the tuition remission and things like that. So you would work, if the semester starts September 2nd and goes through to December 16th or 18th, whatever it is, the only time you would not be working is during the winter break and obviously over the summer. But yeah, if it is a semester that you are charging a tuition and getting the remission for it, you are required to work those 20 hours in whatever capacity it was that you were assigned.
And I just realized I didn't answer the second part of the New York, New Jersey question, which was the certification licensure. ASHA certification is valid nationwide, so that is not a concern. The state licensure, to my knowledge, is reciprocal. There might be a process where you certainly have to apply separately, but the requirements for our program would meet the requirements for New York licensure. That's my last knowledge as of about a year ago. Sometimes things change, so I certainly would suggest that you reach out to the New York licensing board if that's a concern, but I think it's fairly common that people cross between New York and New Jersey. I myself started out working in New York and then moved to New Jersey, and it was a pretty smooth process to have my license become reciprocal in New Jersey. That was a lot of years ago, but you know, we're very close states, so it happens all the time.
So there's a question about the chemistry biology class in undergrad. Can they take them at WPU while in the program? You can in fact take those courses while you are in the program if you are so accepted. But keep in mind that if you are accepted into a graduate program, you will pay graduate tuition regardless of the course level. So if these prerequisite courses are something that you know are undergrad and you know you have to take, it may behoove you to go ahead and take them in the spring semester or the summer at a community college or at a college where you would only be charged the undergraduate tuition. And I know there's another question here. It says, how does WPU work with students who work full time? So all of our classes start after 4:30 in the afternoon. No, not all of yours. Not all of your graduate programs. I apologize.
This is a good question.
Right.
So I can address this because I get this question a fair amount. Our program is very full time. Our classes occur throughout the day. Clinic, you're expected to be available for clinic throughout the day. You know, we do have a fair amount that happens like between 3 and 7 in the clinic because we get kids who come in after school. But like I teach courses that run from 11 to 1:40 pretty regularly. You might have an 8 or 9 o'clock class. And your schedule will change each semester in terms of when the classes are offered. Graduate classes in our department are typically 2 hour and 40 minutes once per week. So it's like a block kind of schedule. And so, you know, unfortunately, it's just not really realistic to hold a full-time job while you're in this program. There's just a lot of requirements, and I think you'll find that to be the case in just about any speech language pathology graduate program, certainly the ones in this area. That said, students I know sometimes need to work. And so if you can manage a part-time job that has some flexibility that you can work around your school schedule, that certainly could work. You know, our GAs work 20 hours a week and they are able to work that around their school schedule. Yeah, but unfortunately, it's just not something you can really do while also holding down a full-time job.
One of the other questions was, are students matched with mentors and specific faculty that will help them stay on track? I know as the program director, you do a lot of the advising, but if you could kind of elaborate on that a little bit.
Yeah, so I'm the program director and I serve, or you know, whoever's the program director serves as the primary advisor for all graduate students. The way I do it is that I meet with students for an orientation, and then I meet with students at least once per semester for either group or individual advising. Your curriculum plan is pretty much set when you start the program. So after your initial orientation and curriculum planning, you should just basically be following that plan. There shouldn't be a lot that will change in terms of like what courses you should register for each semester. Aside from that, I'm always available for, any other kinds of questions that students might have. Our clinic director meets with students to guide their clinical plan. The externship coordinator meets regularly with students as they get closer to the time that they will be getting ready for externship placements. This year, we started doing sort of a peer mentoring program, which has worked out pretty well, especially since students have not been able to gather in person as much. We paired second-year students with our incoming first-year students to provide some mentoring. And all faculty post office hours this year, of course, they're virtual, but we really try to be available to students as much as possible. Hopefully that answered that question.
And I think that's it. There's a couple here that are about tuition. If you have any tuition questions, out of state, in-state rates, you need to contact student enrollment services. I apologize, I just drew a blank. On campus, admissions, the department, we don't handle any type of tuition questions and things like that. So you do want to go to the student enrollment services office. In regards to applicants with or without a background, as Dr. Victorino said, everybody is evaluated on even playing fields, whether you come from an SLP background or not. They are evaluating the applications, the admissions committee. Let me make that clear. It's not just one person. There is a committee who will evaluate it regardless of where the background is. And then, is there an opportunity for research or faculty on campus involved in research?
I'm sorry, I was reading through the questions. Can you, and I was reading something different at that time.
Okay.
Opportunities to participate in research, was that the question?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so there are opportunities to participate in research to a degree. We are not, a research intensive institution. So the expectation is not that, all students are involved in research, and we don't have like big labs like some of the, big Research One institutions might have, but all of our faculty are involved in research to varying degrees. So students can certainly volunteer anytime to help faculty with research in their areas of interest. That's one way. The other way would be if you were a graduate assistant in the department and were assigned to faculty members, oftentimes you would be assisting in research. And the third opportunity to participate in research is actually more student driven. During the second year, we have a 2-semester sequence called Research Seminar. So it's Research Seminar 1 and Research Seminar 2, where students do small group research projects on their own that are guided by a faculty member. And that is one of the kind of capstone kind of experiences that we have for our students. By the end of the second semester, the spring semester of the second year, students will have basically produced a research project that has results and a discussion, and we typically will do a poster presentation session. Sometimes students present those posters at conferences like the New Jersey Speech and Hearing Association, Speech Language and Hearing Association conference, which happens in late April or early May every year. Sometimes students go on to present their research at the following year's ASHA convention. So that's a nice opportunity for students to get involved in research as well.
Great, and there is one last question, and then I think we're going to wrap it up before, we get a whole plethora more of them. I do want to let you all know that you are more than welcome to email Dr. Victorino. Her contact information again is there. Graduate admissions, we can always answer you. Try to get back to you within 48 hours. Just know that we understand that questions are going to come up from now until that time, and please don't hesitate to reach out. But this last question here that we have, it's that application's already been submitted to CITCAS and they're now taking the prerequisites for spring. Is there a way to indicate that on the application? Unfortunately, there's not. Once your application is submitted through CITCAS and then pushed through the William Patterson system, there is no way to go ahead and go back to let us know that those courses are in progress. I would tell you that 80% of the decisions are usually made in and around the beginning of March, whether you were accepted, rejected, and or asked to be placed on the wait list with us. So finishing those courses at the end of the spring, while they will be helpful for the amount of courses you have to take once you're accepted into the program, it may or may not make a difference as far as the application evaluation goes. So unfortunately, there is no way to go ahead and submit that to us, in May when the semester ends. So
yeah. I do want to reassure you, though, that that has no bearing on our admissions decision. It wouldn't, just because a student does not have those prereqs documented doesn't mean that you wouldn't or couldn't get into the program. We do a very thorough transcript review come spring once we know who has been accepted and who has decided to attend William Patterson. At that point, we'll really reach out to you and find out what you've been taking throughout the spring, what you might plan to take in the summer, and so on. So whether you've taken the prereqs or when you take the prereqs is much more important when it comes to curriculum planning for those students who have been admitted than it is necessarily for the admissions decision.
And I just want to, one more thing real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Once the decisions go out, there is a timeline to go ahead and either accept your decision and or decline your decision.
Mm-hmm.
So while we try to be courteous and get everybody their decisions as quickly as possible and, indicate to you whether or not you've been placed on the wait list, please understand that this is a long process. We have in between 30 and 40 seats available every fall for a cohort. And over the past few years, we've received over 200 applications. So keep in mind that it is time consuming on our end as well, but we are trying to be mindful of your time and your excitement and things like that. And, we thank you for your interest here. But again, if you have questions, please let us know. CIDCAS has the information in regards to all the deadlines. The William Patterson website has the information in regards to all the deadlines. So you want to make sure that you do keep up with reviewing those things. And then if you have more specific questions, you're more than welcome to go ahead and reach out to us. So if that is it, I'm going to say we've been on here almost an hour. If nobody has anything else pressing, I am going to thank you all very much for your time. And again, you're more than welcome to reach out to us. We'd be happy to answer the questions. So thanks you very
guys.
much.
Just so you know, if you email me this week, you're going to get an automatic message saying that I'm on furlough and I'll respond to you next week. So I made an exception for today to be available for the open house. But other than that, I will be back to work next Tuesday, the 15th. So I will look forward to hearing from you and communicating more with you after that. All right. Thanks, everyone.